I took a job through a family friend who promised to teach me the business. Turned out he just needed free labor and a fall guy. I was 6 weeks out of college. No job. No savings. Just a piece of paper with my name on it and a dozen rejection emails piling up in my inbox. Then my mom got a text from someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Uncle Steve. Technically not an uncle, just one of those family friend types who used to show up at barbecues, flirt with people's moms, and hand out advice like he invented hard work. He ran a small business, bookkeeping and back office services for local contractors. Nothing fancy. Mostly drywallers, HVAC guys, landscapers. He said he was looking for someone young and smart to learn the ropes. Said he wanted to mentor someone hungry. My mom made it sound like a gift from the universe. I just nodded because I didn't have anything better lined up. I met him at his office, a cluttered second-floor unit above a vape shop. Dusty blinds, flickering lights, a Keurig that made coffee that tasted like burned cardboard. He smiled a lot, called me kiddo, and talked like he was doing me a favor. This ain't corporate. I don't care about degrees. You show up, you learn fast. I show you how real business works. In 6 months, you'll know more than any accountant with a desk job. I didn't sign anything. Didn't even negotiate a rate. He said he'd pay me in cash, for now, just until we figure it out long term. I told myself I'd stay a month. See how it goes. Get some experience. Build a resume. Anything. The first week was nothing. Just errands and grunt work. Printing statements. Updating Excel sheets. Calling clients who hadn't paid. Shredding paper. He talked nonstop. Told stories about beating the IRS at their own game. Boasted about how he had zero debt. Claimed his last assistant got hired by a hedge fund after learning everything from me. He called me partner. But he never showed me how anything actually worked. Just dumped tasks on my desk and said, "Use your brain. You'll figure it out." By the second week, something started to feel off. He went on a business trip, which I later found out meant staying at a golf resort 2 hours away. Before leaving, he handed me a stack of folders and said, "Just make sure these are entered in the system. And if anyone calls, you're me." That wasn't a joke. He meant it literally. He trained clients to ask for him directly. But now, calls were getting forwarded to my phone. And people weren't calling to chat. They were asking real questions. Specific things. Did my payment go through for April? Why was there a late fee on my May invoice? Can you send me the amended tax summary? I had no idea what they were talking about. Every file was named wrong. Dates didn't match. There were multiple versions of the same invoice with different amounts. I asked Steve if there was a shared system or reference sheet I should use. He just texted, "You'll be fine. Trust your gut. Don't overthink." Then his old assistant came by the office. She was dropping off a piece of mail addressed to her that hadn't been forwarded yet. She looked tired. We chatted for maybe 3 minutes before I asked her why she left. She laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "He probably told you I got recruited somewhere amazing, huh?" "Nah. I quit when he asked me to sign something with his name on it." I didn't ask for details. She didn't offer any. But she looked at me and said, "Just make sure you're not the one holding the bag when it goes south." Then she left. That night, I stayed late and went through everything I could find. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Just confirmation. Something to explain why everything felt so loose and unstable. I opened old spreadsheets, email chains, billing logs. Some client names were listed twice under different IDs. Some receipts had amounts scribbled out and rewritten. There were bank statements with transactions labeled pending that were 6 months old. One contractor had 4 invoices for the same service, all dated within 10 days of each other. All slightly different totals. Then I opened a tax file. It was a scanned copy of a submission form with Steve's signature at the bottom. But when I zoomed in, I noticed the signature box was a pasted image, like a cut and paste job. The date was wrong. The business ID was listed twice. And the preparer, listed underneath? My name. Spelled wrong. But definitely me. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at my ceiling and went over every single thing I'd done for him in the past 2 weeks. Every call, every form I touched, every email I answered pretending I had any idea what I was doing. I thought about how none of it was official, how I'd never signed a contract, how I had no idea what I was legally responsible for. I texted him at 2 a.m., asking if we could talk about some weird file stuff. He replied 2 hours later. "All good, kiddo. You're doing great. Call you in the morning." He didn't call in the morning. He didn't text. Didn't show up at the office either. I sat there from 9 to 5, alone, answering calls I couldn't answer, responding to emails I didn't understand, trying to make sense of files I didn't create. Around 11:40, I got a call from one of his bigger clients, a guy who ran a home renovation company, the kind that subcontracted everything. He asked if I could resend his March invoice. Said it looked like he'd been charged twice for the same job, once via direct invoice, and once through some third-party processor Steve set up a while ago. I told him I'd look into it. I opened the March file. There were 2 different documents, one marked sent, the other marked draft, but both had been submitted. Both had the same work description, different invoice numbers, slightly different tax breakdowns, same total, same client. I tried calling Steve. Voicemail. I texted him. "Hey, this guy might have been double charged. Looks like 2 invoices went out for the same job." He replied 10 minutes later with, "Not your job to worry about that. Client accounting's handled on my end." That didn't make sense. I was the one receiving the calls now. I was the one looking at the files. So who exactly was handling it? I kept digging. I started noticing that the longer the client had been with Steve, the messier the records were. Lots of revisions. Lots of manual changes. Invoices that didn't match bank deposits. Some had been paid to a separate LLC, one I'd never seen before. I looked it up online. No real info. Just a vague name and a P.O. box. That's when I started searching for my name, just to see if it popped up again. It did. 6 more times. Twice on Reviewed by Lines. Once in a client contract. 3 times in the metadata of edited tax PDFs. I checked the computer's document history. The edits were all recent, within the last 10 days. Which meant he was adding my name manually after I started. Then the accountant called. Not Steve's. The client's. She introduced herself, said she was trying to finalize their quarterly report, and noticed something strange in the last submission. Apparently, the preparer listed wasn't who she expected. I asked her what she meant. She read it to me. It was me. Full name. Misspelled again. Same signature block I saw the night before. Copy-pasted, misaligned. She asked if I'd submitted the documents. I said no. She paused, then said, "You should talk to someone about this. If your name's on it, you're legally responsible." Then she hung up. I texted Steve again. "We need to talk. Urgently. Client accountant called me. She said I'm listed as a preparer." His reply came an hour later. "Ignore it. Just a formality. You're covered under my umbrella." I asked, "Why is my name on legal documents at all?" No answer. 10 minutes later. "You're learning how the industry works. It's messy. That's why I'm showing you. Relax." That's when it clicked. He didn't want to teach me anything. He didn't even need help. He just needed someone to sit in that chair, take the calls, file the forms, and if anything blew up, take the hit. I was the fall guy. He'd done it before. That's why his last assistant left. It probably worked every time. Find someone fresh, hungry, desperate for experience. Make them feel like they're part of something. Get them to do the grunt work. Slide their name onto documents just enough to shield yourself. And when the IRS or some pissed-off client came knocking, "Oh, that must have been the assistant. He misunderstood." Clean break. Start over. I started making copies. Not out of panic, just instinct. Saved every file that had my name on it. Screenshotted every message, every text, every calendar entry, every client file that had a double invoice or a mismatched total. I put it all on a flash drive. Named the folder TYA. Cover your ass. Then I emailed myself everything, in case he got smart, and wiped the computer. I printed one copy of the client contract that used my name, brought it home, put it in a drawer, and that night I didn't sleep again. Not because I was scared, because I was angry. I wasn't a genius, but I wasn't dumb. I'd worked minimum wage jobs. I'd taken internships. I knew what it meant to do crap work for no money. But this was different. This wasn't just using me. This was putting me on the hook for whatever garbage he'd been building behind closed doors for years. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to walk in there the next morning and give him one shot to clean it up. And if he didn't, I already knew exactly what folder I'd send to the IRS. I showed up at 8 o'clock sharp. He wasn't there. I sat at my desk like it was any other day, pretending to answer emails, but I wasn't doing anything. Just waiting. He walked in at 9:15, holding a smoothie, grinning like he was coming back from vacation. "Morning, partner. Ready to conquer the week?" I didn't even stand up. I said, "We need to talk." He gave me a little smirk and a fake sigh. "What now?" I pulled out the flash drive and placed it on the desk between us. I said, "That has every document you put my name on. Every invoice, every edited tax form, every mismatched billing record. Copies of texts, screenshots, timestamps. It's all on there." He looked at it like it was a joke. Then I said, "I spoke to one of the client accountants. She knows. And I already backed this up to 3 cloud folders and sent it to myself. So if anything happens to me, it's already set to forward." He laughed. Actually laughed. Said I was being dramatic. Said I didn't understand how this business works. Then he tried the guilt angle. "Look, I've been doing this for 20 years. You don't get how clients operate. You fix little things here and there. That's the game. No one gets hurt." I didn't blink. I said, "Take my name off everything. Send a correction to every client and every accountant. Tell them I was never authorized to act on your behalf. Or I send this to the IRS, and they'll sort it out themselves." That wiped the grin off his face. He leaned back in his chair and just stared at me. Didn't say a word for at least 30 seconds. Then he asked, "And what's your end goal here? You want a cut? A job?" "What?" I said. "I want my name off your mess. That's it." He laughed again, this time bitter. "You think I can just erase a name and walk away clean? That's not how it works." I said, "Then it's not my problem anymore." I stood up, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. Just before I walked out, I turned and said, "You have 48 hours. After that, I don't care what happens to you." Then I left. The first 24 hours, silence. Then an email from him. "Need to talk. Can fix this. Don't escalate." I didn't answer. Next day, another one. "Made some edits. Clients will be notified. We'll send confirmation." Attached was a PDF. A generic statement addressed to all concerned clients and vendors, saying that recent operational miscommunications involving a temporary assistant had caused confusion and that said assistant was not acting in an official capacity. No name mentioned, but I didn't need it. Then came the revised tax documents. My name was removed. Old versions deleted. He sent copies to the clients I knew had asked questions. It wasn't clean. It wasn't noble. But it was what I asked for. He did it because I cornered him. Not because he believed he should. That was fine with me. A week later, I filed an anonymous report to the IRS. I included everything. Didn't attach my name. Didn't contact the clients. Didn't go public. Just sent the packet through the proper channel and moved on. I don't know if anything came of it. Maybe they'll investigate. Maybe they'll do nothing. Maybe he'll squirm for 6 months not knowing if a letter will show up in his mailbox. That's enough for me. I got a real job 2 months later. Official contract. Benefits. Actual mentorship. They asked about the gap in my resume. I told them I helped out a local small business post-college but left due to differences in ethics. They didn't ask more. I didn't offer more. My mom eventually asked why why I stopped working with Steve. I just said it. Wasn't the right fit. She nodded. Didn't push. But a few months later, she showed me a Facebook post he made. A photo of his desk with a motivational quote. In business, everyone gets tested. The strong survive. The weak blame others. I didn't say anything. Just nodded and gave her back the phone. He thought he was clever. Thought if he smiled, dropped some kiddo s, and tossed around words like mentorship, I'd be grateful. Thought if he buried me in responsibility with no authority, I'd feel important, not used. He thought he could use my name and I wouldn't notice. He thought wrong. I didn't go down with him. Didn't make a scene. Didn't burn anything down. I just got quiet. Got smart. Got out. And now he gets to sit there wondering when the past shows up at his door. I'm not watching. But I hope he is.